Hey everybody, this is Grace. And part of the way I'm doing my videos, I was doing them at the park, but because it's too noisy in the house. But the last time I went to the park, there was a strange man kept staring at me, and I did think that maybe when I drove up there, he saw me. He thought I was waving. Instead, I was, turning on my camera, and I did think that. But it was just, eventually you let it go. You just don't keep staring. And just, it was kind of weird. And I have enough trouble with neighbors doing that. But anyway, I just put up a video last night. Today is August 3rd, 2020. And that video was from, when was it? It was old. And, probably, was it June or July? Sometime in there. Anyway. It was a jumbled up mess. And I really, when I listened to it, I said, something must have happened. Like maybe I mixed clips from other video, but it was a stream of consciousness video, and it was just so jumbled. And I did say in it that I hadn't had my caffeine. Well, I haven't had my caffeine this time either. But I don't drink coffee. I just drink the diet soda with caffeine in the morning. Other than that, it just makes my heart beat too much the rest of the day. But anyway, I'm going to start off like this. I'm going to continue like this if I don't get to this. Now, I have always wanted to, not always, but for a while now, wanted just to tell the stories that go on in my life straight up. I always give, pseudonyms and it's not the real names to anybody. And nobody knows anybody. Nobody knows me. Although I did run across a woman on YouTube that I think does. I think I know her. Okay. And I've watched her on and off for a few years. And I really do think she was somebody, that I knew, but it was something like 20-something years ago. So she's changed a bit, but that could really be her. A whole lot about her would be true. And plus, she had lived in Texas. Yeah. But anyway, get this part of this all jumbled up mix right here. But I always wanted to tell the story straight up, and I always worried about it because, it involves other people's lives. But this is my life that they screwed up. Okay, they had screwed up my life. They did a lot of things bad to me, other people. And I'm not saying I'd blackmail them. If you, say anything, then I'm going to say this or any of that. But I do have a lot more on them than they have on. I don't have anything they have on me. They just made it up crap. Like this story has been going. They make up stuff. They do the smear campaign behind my back. And one of them will, and the other one will too. Another one. And they tell the other one, and they tell one another, and they just tell other people, and they just keep adding on to a bunch of crap that one of them made up. Or the other one made up. Yeah. But anyway, this is about, okay, I should start here. Okay. Let me start. Okay, when I was born, my mother suffered from postpartum depression after she had me. Now, I don't know when it was in my lifetime that basically, I don't remember if it was just my siblings or I have 4. I'm the 4th, and another one came 6 years later. But at some point, they were saying things like, they would say things like I was the black sheep, which I was thankful for. And they would say that I must be adopted because I'm so unlike them. Well, that wasn't the truth. Now, the truth to the whole matter was, it wasn't me who was the one that was not like them. I mean, physically. Okay, mentally, yes. Psychologically, all that, yes. But physically, I looked like all of them. I looked like both sides of the family. There's a mixture. You can see it. And I looked like all of my siblings, except for one. Okay, except for that one. And she doesn't look like any of us. Anybody in the family, really. It's kind of odd. But anyway, so they would put that on me when I was young. And, I went through hell in that family. I really did. I was beaten by my dad. He was very narcissistic. My mother was, like I said, had postpartum depression after me. She she was basically a recluse her bedroom that had, bathroom TV. She only came out just to put some food on and go back in. And but she had a favorite, which was the one that didn't look like any of the rest of us. And but anyway, she suffered from postpartum depression so bad, as my dad had told me. I had heard little rumors all along. It wasn't like they kept things to themselves, that they should. You don't say stuff like that to a child. But basically, she hid knives because she was afraid she was going to stab me. She was afraid she was going to kill me. So she hid knives from herself. Now, I also heard that she hid knives from herself, like as if that she was afraid she was going to hurt herself. But no, I heard enough about it was me, because she suffered from postpartum depression after me. But that wasn't all. And I think, over years, I've questioned what was going on, what had happened, why all this came about, and why did she have such deep hatred for me that she never got over. Never. She died about, let's see, I'm 57. I think she died when I was 50 or 51, somewhere around there. And she never got over it. The only time, like when I was an adult and didn't live there, in that area, she would call me to try to locate one of her favorites. She had two favorites, and one of them was the one that looked nothing like us. And later on, because my dad also chose another one, the younger one, to be his favorite, so did she. Parents should not have favorites, period. Anyway, so what was the story? I had wondered about the story. What was truly the problem with all of this that had gone on? Now, I'm going to say what I think was the strange way they told us things or didn't tell us things, left things. We overheard things, yeah. Like one of the things that I overheard, there was, what do they call those things? Those big chests that you put, there was a French name for it, and that you put things in, and like some people put pots, but some people put other things in them. It's a big show thing, and this one was huge. And I had walked in, and right when I walked in, I heard my mother talking to her mother, my grandmother, who lived next door. She and my grandfather, they had our house built for us, as it was, and they were wealthy. And anyway, I was walking in as a kid, and I overheard my mother tell her mother that I ruined the third child's life by being born. Okay, and my grandmother told her, basically she shouldn't think that way or something. But I remember just hearing my mother go off about how awful it was that I was born, and no child should hear that. Really, no child. But yeah. Now, by the way, my grandmother had been a nurse before she had my mother. So maybe she understood a little more about what was going on with postpartum depression. I don't know. Okay, but honestly, what it is going to remain a mystery, because both my parents have passed, and my dad did back in the 90s, 1996, I think it was, somewhere around there. But so this is going to remain a mystery. No grandparents, no parents, no. I don't think anybody knows. No aunts, uncles left. Nothing. I think there's one uncle that's not blood related, and I don't have any contact with him. But I don't know if anybody knows what is true about this story. But basically, this is what little pieces I was told. And that is, I have, like I said, I'm the fourth child out of 5. And the story I would hear was that one of my second sibling, which was a sister, she was 2 years old. This is how they told it. She was a baby, they would say, but she was 2 years old. And other times they would say, a 2-year-old is not really a baby. It's a toddler. It's not an infant. It's a toddler. And as far as I know, and they would say that at that time, my dad went into the TB hospital. That's what they call it, TB hospital, and where he was for 2 years. Okay. So that sister was 2 years old, and the third child, another sister, she was 2 years younger. Okay, so let's do the math there. He was in a TB hospital. And I don't know how TB hospitals work, but I wouldn't imagine that they would let people in that, besides the staff. I don't know. I really don't know. So, and what I'd heard was that during that time, and I don't know how any of us heard these kind of things, because they never told us stuff like this straight out. But they must have overheard, like I had overheard stuff, because they would just say they wouldn't watch. I don't know. But they put it this way, that while my dad was in the TB hospital, he kissed a nurse. And I remember as an adult thinking, a kiss? That was all that it was? Anyway, like I said, he was rather narcissistic. And so I remember during different times. Now, okay, the third child was born. Okay. Was my dad in the hospital at the time? I would think so. Then, or right after he got out of the hospital. I mean, like, had to be real close, because there's 4 years difference between me and the second child. Okay, only a year and a half between me and the third child. Not even a year and a half. It's a year and 2 months. Okay, a year and 2 or 3 months. 3 months. Around there. Yeah, so the math, when I start doing it, it was like, okay, they would lie maybe, and like say that it was a baby, yet then it was a 2-year-old, and I changed that stuff around however they felt at the moment, and whomever was saying it. But I remember when I was younger saying, well, maybe I am adopted, but the older I get, the more I look like my mom and my dad. It's obvious I look like all of my all my siblings, sisters, and I have a brother, and except for the third one. Okay, I do, and she does, like I said earlier, she doesn't look like any of us at all. And I'm talking everything from eye color to hair, to just the overall appearance, the body shape, size. Nothing, okay, would say that she is our actual, even just a sibling, but I would say a half sibling, not even really that either. And now that we're older still, I mean, it's even more obvious. She doesn't look like any of us. But she would have to be a half sibling. Okay. And I would say, from whom? Okay, like I said, the story went that my dad kissed a nurse in the hospital, and from what, like I said, I don't know for certain, but was my mom even able to go in there? And I remember hearing a vague memory of, no, she wasn't, but yet she had a child while he was in the hospital. Okay, and he was there for 2 years. The math, like I said, they switched around so much, the math never added up, right? But anyway, as she got older, she had dementia. Okay, she started having a dementia around my age, and that's when around, I guess a few years later was when my dad passed away, and he had tried to, tell us all we need to watch over her because she's just not right. That's the way that he put it. Well, she was never right. Dealing with him would have been hard enough, and her mother, who was very controlling, and but yeah, she wasn't. She was also, I truly believe, she suffered from agoraphobia. She, like I said, was much of a recluse, a hermit. She didn't want to go anywhere. She didn't want to drive anywhere. The only time she ever did really was to pick us up from school if it was raining, because we lived near, well, depending on which school we lived in. But we only had to take buses during junior high. We had junior high back then. But the rest of the time we lived close to the school, so we just walked. And she didn't want to do shopping. She would only go shopping on Tuesday with her mother, who lived next door, like I said, and buy the whole week's groceries for both families, and she didn't want to. She like refused to drive on the highway, which I suffered from that too for a while. As I got older, I suffered from agoraphobia when I was 28, and again when I was 33. But then when I was 35, I got put on metformin for type 2 diabetes, and I'm not saying this is the case for anybody else but me. And that's pretty much subsided. Yeah. So I could relate to that. I could understand it, from a personal experience in that way. And plus my degrees are in psychology and sociology. So anyway, but to get back to that, yeah, there was something going on. There was something more to this story. And the way the numbers just didn't add up right. The times, the dates. And my thought was, like I said, she had dementia, and she would start talking about this guy, that she met in college, university. It was college back then. It was a Bible college, is what they call it. It's in Waxahachie, Texas. Now it's a university. And we took her when she was older, when she had dementia, we took her there. One of my sisters did. And to see it, and she would just talk about this guy, this man. And what had happened was when she graduated high school, she and my dad were dating, but she left to go to that Bible college because she wanted to be a missionary. Yeah, for Bible, for church, Christians, missionary. And but her mother claimed she got real sick, and she called her back home so she could take care of her. And then next thing you know, my mother was pressured and got married, and she, her family was Catholic, and she had 5 kids, and she never, I think she truly resented that, a lot. And but she would tell stories, a lot of my childhood. She would tell stories about her time at that Bible college, like Jerry Lee Lewis used to. Isn't it Jerry Lee Lewis, the guy that Whole Lot of Shaking Going On kind of song, isn't it? That he practices piano there at that college where she attended, and they became friends. And she said she also, I have a vague memory, she said she met Elvis through him. But yeah, I mean, all that could be true. But she also met this guy, and at college, and she really loved him. She really wanted to be with him. But she got called home. Okay. And yeah, that was in Texas, and she lived in Texas. And so years, all this with my dad going to TB hospital, it does make me wonder, could it, because there just seemed to be so much in her mind about this Perry, his name was Perry, about this Perry guy. And and what was it? What was the connection? And I do wonder if maybe when my dad went into the TB hospital, as they called it, that she got connected to him and had an affair. And the result of it was that 3rd child. Now, if you've been following my videos, you might recognize this name, that 3rd child. None of these names are real. Well, Perry's is. I don't know who Perry is. But the result, I do believe, was the 3rd child, the one that I came after 15 months later. And that 3rd child happens to be Annie. The story I've been talking about, Annie, the one who spent her whole lifetime trying to take away, my whole lifetime, trying to take, because I'm born 15 months after her, my whole lifetime trying to take everything from me. Now, let's go back, and, my mother telling her mother that I ruined her, I ruined Annie's childhood. Okay, I don't know if I put it that way, but that's what she said, that I had ruined Annie, it ruined a lot of things, Annie's childhood. But maybe it was more than just Annie's childhood. Maybe my mother was carrying on with a secret affair. And after she, when she got pregnant with me, and then after I was born, she couldn't continue it. she was needed there with me. Then, 2 young children. So, yeah, but according to my dad, many years later, that my mother had basically tossed me aside, and if it wasn't for him, but he was working. She didn't work outside the home. She was a homemaker. But according to him, he had to take care of me. But I'm thinking more of the next door neighbor, which was my grandparents. And then her mother was a nurse, had been a nurse before, earlier in life. So she probably was the one that took care of me during the day. And there's so much like vagueness, so much story to all this. But my mother, kept on with this like hatred toward me. Definitely I'm at fault. You know what I'm saying? And growing up like that, where your mother doesn't want to have anything to do with you, your dad's always at work, and I was never really giving any true instructions on how to do anything, nothing. And I remember when I was a preteen, maybe, my dad informed my mother, you need to really teach her how to, personal hygiene kind of thing, because she never had. And when I picked up from my siblings, and I had tried to get her to do my hair. She didn't want to have anything to do with me. Okay, she had a deep resentment toward me. And, you grow up like that and you don't know why. Now, Annie, Annie was Mom's favorite. Think about it. If Annie was the result of an affair that my mother wanted to continue but couldn't because I was born, and Annie being her favorite child, and I do believe that she clued Annie in on all this, some of this, and more of that I ruined Annie's life, and that's why Annie spent so much of her lifetime trying to cause me problems. Seriously, I remember one time I went there, and I went to Annie's house. I was like clueless because this stuff was going on behind my back. Okay? Seriously, as an adult, I really didn't know what all this stuff, like I said in that video, the one that actually makes sense. I didn't know all this stuff was going on. And, but I went there one time, and Annie stayed there. Annie stayed in that town where my mother stayed after my dad died, until she, had dementia so bad she had to go in senior living communities. But Annie stayed there, and then she was the only one that stayed there. And anytime I'd go there, I had property there, I'd stay for a little while. She'd do anything she could to get me out of the town. Okay? She'd make it miserable. But anyway, Annie was married at one point, and she had a daughter. They had a daughter. And I went to visit her when I got there. I went to town. I was real happy. Oh, I'm going to go see her and see how she's doing and everything. It was evening. Well, Annie's husband went all off on me. I was like, what the crap? He just went crazy on me. And Annie sat there with a smirk on her face, a narcissistic kind of smirk. Actually, I'd say histrionic. Kind of smirk, narcissistic, histrionic blend going on there. And she just thought it was like, yeah, finally I was able to really hurt her. And that was Annie. Annie always wanted to hurt me. Okay, because the sins of the parents, and they didn't see it that way. Anyway, so I left from there and I went back to my mom's, and my mom was living by herself. I don't know if my brother was there or not, but I don't know. But anyway, I was crying, and my mother cornered me in a room, one of the bedrooms, and she said, "You're not leaving. I'm going to tell you something." Now, I don't know how she meant it, because my mother never told me anything. Really. She was never one to clue me in, or never one to give me any instructions in life, and maybe twice in my whole life. But she told me, she said, "You need to realize your siblings are not your friends." Okay, and she went on from there. She said they resented me because of my dad's connection to me, and that how he treated me so well. I said, well, if they resent me for that, they could have had it. Said he was abusive. She did not want to believe it, even though she saw it. she was one of those, she did not want to believe it. Or maybe with her twisted mind, you know, from all that happened, that she thought I deserved it because I was born. You see? Yeah, I mean, I overheard straight from her mouth that it was my fault that I was born, and I ruined, you know, Annie's childhood. And she never got over her resentment. Okay. All right. Now, I was young then when that happened. I was young, and with my sibling, you know, with Annie and her husband going off on me. Later on, it was found out that her husband had some pretty bad problems, and they divorced. But so did Annie, and but I don't know if my mother told me that they're never going to be they're not my friends. They will never be my friends. They're jealous of me. They will always have this resentment toward me, and that I need to know that. And then the year before my dad died, he told me to watch out for Annie. That he was the one that told me that Annie would tell her husband things about me that were not truth. She would play the victim, is what we call it. She would play the victim and say that I had treated her, I had been really hateful and mean toward her, and all that. So her husband was one of these, I call him a gun-toting Bubba from Ohio. that's what I called him. No, this was in Texas. Yeah, that's what I called him. And there was so many things that it wasn't until later in life when I really thought about it, but he would carry a gun to family get-togethers. And everybody would say, yeah, that's wrong of him to do it. But the reason was because of me. Yeah, there was some little hints, but I'm like, I didn't do anything to her. You know, it was the smear campaign behind my back that I didn't know about. Okay? So I would not know that that's why he carried a gun, because I would not know what was going on behind my back. There was no clue. Nobody told me. You see, until like the year before my dad died, and then he started telling me all this stuff. Yeah, so my whole life was so screwed up by these things, because my mother had postpartum depression, and my dad took charge, according to him, had to take care of me, and he was very abusive physically, mentally. When I was 12 years old, he hit me so hard, and it wasn't the first time, that he hit me. I was in the room where the laundry room, and he hit me, and I hit the washer dryer. He hit me so hard, and it was really painful. And I got up, and I told him, I said, you ever lay a hand on me again. 12-year-old, okay? Yeah. I said, I will report you. And I basically said to the authorities. And he backed off. And after that time, from that moment on, all he ever used was humiliation. He would humiliate me in front of anybody. He would never lay a hand on me, never hit me, nothing, ever again. And because I'm in it. I'm in it. And a 12-year-old standing up to a man who was, my mother claimed he was a pituitary giant, but he would only claim to be 6'7", and I think they're 7 feet plus. And I always thought that was a joke, but anyway, he was a big man. He was really big football player type man, and I'd had enough. And I think from that moment on, I stand up to people. Really, I do. But the bad thing is that they seem like they think I'm a good target. I think they think anybody's a good target. Especially, I think, people who they see as a challenge. Some of them. Not all. It's not a one-size-fits-all in any of this. But, yeah, they see somebody as a challenge. And if they can win, that's so much good they've done. They've accomplished so much. But anyway, so, I mean, there's always been this mystery, and I woke up this morning thinking about this, and I need just to start telling these stories straight out instead of, I made so many videos over years now talking about it, but I'd come up with more of a hypothetical, and like I said, this is my view. I could be wrong on what's going on behind the scenes and stuff like that, but no. I used to be blind, but now I can see, kind of thing, yeah. Definitely have been able to for years, but it's more more since I've been in my 50s, I've had more time to process these things, because before then I was just always so busy in life, so many things. But now life's calming down, especially now with this pandemic. I'm at home more. Yeah, I'm processing and making these videos over these years. I'm going to put this one in my story video channel. Also, I usually put videos that I just didn't like. I did it at first. First, I started off as a makeup channel, believe it or not. 5.5 years ago, something like that. But anyway, if it lets me upload, it might not let me upload. I might have to separate it into two. But anyway, I think that's enough for the story. I'm going to, hopefully this one makes sense. I hope it doesn't sound like a jumbled up mess like that. I know sometimes mine do. Quite often they do, especially I'm a stream of consciousness type. And I get distracted because there's so much usually going on. But anyway, we'll see. I might carry on with this. And hopefully, like I said, not so confusing. Talk to you on another video. Bye.